The first-class cabin exuded a quiet opulence, the kind that whispered wealth rather than flaunted it. Polished with trims, dim ambient lighting, and the occasional clink of cutlery accompanied by hushed conversations gave the space a subdued elegance. It was here that a man named Darius Ellington stepped aboard, holding a slim leather briefcase in one hand, dressed in a charcoal gray crewneck sweater and jet-black slacks. His shoes were polished but understated, his frame tall but relaxed, and his demeanor serene yet unmistakably commanding. He moved without rush, with the calm precision of someone who knew exactly where he belonged. Seat 1B awaited him, and he approached it without hesitation, setting his briefcase down gently in the overhead compartment before lowering himself into the plush seat. Around him, other passengers were already settling in, some sipping Perrier, others adjusting their luxury wristwatches, most absorbed in their own affluent routines. None paid him much attention, except one. Gillian Keene, a veteran flight attendant with over a decade of service, spotted Darius as she double-checked the manifest. There was nothing aggressive in her demeanor at first, only a flicker of something unspoken behind her eyes. It might have gone unnoticed by most, a slight stiffening of her shoulders, a half-second longer glance, but Darius caught it. She approached with a professional smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sir," she said, glancing at his seat and then at the boarding pass in his hand. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" Darius met her gaze, offering a courteous nod before handing over the boarding pass. His movements were unhurried, almost gentle, but there was a firmness in the way he held himself. Gillian scanned the pass. "One Bravo," she muttered, her brow furrowing as though trying to solve a puzzle that didn't compute. Her gaze flicked back to him, then again to the pass. "And you're traveling alone?" "Yes," Darius replied, his voice smooth and level. No hint of annoyance, no raised tone, just calm clarity. Gillian's lips pressed into a tight line. She hesitated before speaking again. "Could I ask you to wait just a moment? I need to confirm something with the manifest." Without waiting for a reply, she walked briskly toward the galley, her heels clicking sharply against the cabin floor. Darius remained seated, hands resting lightly on his thighs, eyes scanning the cabin with a casual observation of someone taking in scenery rather than searching for a problem. Minutes ticked by. Passengers barely noticed the delay, but there was a shift, a subtle ripple of unease among the crew. From behind the curtain, hushed whispers emerged, clipped and urgent. Gillian peeked out once, her expression unreadable. She disappeared again, returning moments later with a different tone entirely. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step into the galley with me. There's been a discrepancy with the seating chart." Darius didn't argue. He rose, standing to the side to allow another passenger to pass. "Of course," he said evenly, stepping aside rather than following her. "I meant," she paused, her voice tightening, "please wait in the galley. You're blocking the aisle." "I'm not blocking anything," he replied gently. His tone hadn't changed, but his words carried weight. A breath held, a tension unspoken, and then it happened. She reached out, perhaps out of frustration, perhaps impulsively, and slapped the boarding pass from his hand. The light sound of paper brushing skin echoed with the weight of a gunshot. Silence followed. Utter, absolute silence. The entire first-class cabin froze. Darius bent slightly, picked up the boarding pass, and straightened. He didn't speak. He didn't glare. He simply reached in his pocket, pulled out his phone, and placed a call. One word left his lips. "Now." The air shifted, not dramatically, but distinctly. A beat passed, and then another. Somewhere at the back of the plane, a gate agent's voice rose in urgency. The cockpit door clicked as it opened. A flight supervisor entered the cabin. Eyes darted. Passengers leaned slightly into the aisle to see what was happening. Gillian's face drained of color. She had no idea who Darius Ellington was. But the pilot did. The co-pilot, who had flown hundreds of flights, recognized the name when the captain muttered it under his breath. "Clear the runway," came a voice from command. "This aircraft isn't going anywhere." And it didn't. For minutes that felt like hours, The aircraft remained suspended on the tarmac, not for technical reasons, not for weather delays, but because one man had said one word. Now, back in seat 1B, Darius sat calmly, his briefcase still unopened beside him. He crossed one leg over the other and opened a small notepad, pen moving with fluid grace. Jillian hadn't returned, nor had anyone else dared approach. The cabin buzzed with low murmurs. A few passengers sent silent glances his way, some curious, some apologetic, none courageous enough to speak. The curtain to the galley was drawn back sharply. A man in a sleek navy suit, carrying a security badge and the unmistakable posture of authority, stepped forward. He didn't look at the passengers. He looked straight at Jillian. "Come with me." She started to protest, but he raised a hand. "Now." Jillian followed. Her walk, once firm and poised, had become unsteady. Her hands trembled. The slap echoed again in her mind. The moment she lost control, let assumption override protocol. It had unraveled everything. Because Darius Ellington wasn't just a first-class passenger. He was the chairman of the board, of the airline. And in his silence, he had dismantled every lie told in whispers, every bias dressed as protocol, every assumption hidden behind smiles. Without shouting, without accusations, without threats, he had revealed what power could look like when wrapped in grace. The plane remained still. The pilot, now white-knuckled at the control panel, awaited instructions. But there would be no movement until Darius made it clear that movement was permitted. In the rear of the aircraft, crew members exchanged hushed words. The younger flight attendants were shaken. One of them, Megan, clutched a service card, her knuckles pale. She had seen it all. The question, the slap, the call, and the quiet that followed. She would remember it for the rest of her life. Jillian did not return to the aircraft. Instead, a new attendant, visibly nervous, replaced her. She offered Darius a beverage, her voice careful, her hands steady. He declined with a small nod. In 3A, a woman whispered to her husband, "I heard the name. Ellington. He owns the airline. Not just the seat. The whole damn thing." And with that came the full collapse of assumptions. The understanding that the man they had watched calm, quiet, restrained had changed the atmosphere of the plane by existing exactly as he was. No anger, no demands, only presence. When the plane finally lifted into the air, the sky outside seemed bluer, the light through the windows somehow sharper. The mood on board had transformed, not through turbulence, not through threat, but through revelation. Darius never spoke of the incident. He didn't demand an apology. He didn't file a complaint. He didn't need to. His stillness had been louder than protest. His composure had been sharper than rebuke. His silence had made everyone on board reflect not just on what they had seen, but on what they had assumed before they saw. And for those passengers, the lesson stayed with them long after landing. Because true power doesn't shout. It whispers. And when it whispers with dignity, the world listens.